IT's first. Ms. Graff, you ready to record?
Sorry.
That's all right. No, you good. It is 1 o'clock. We're back from our noon recess. We'll start off with our IT department, Mr. Nenninger. Good morning, or afternoon.
Thank you, Judge, Commissioners. All right, I submitted, the first one page you should see is the 409 non-departmental. The pages following it will show you the detailed information per each one. Talking about non-department phone issues. You know, we're going to implement a new phone system soon. As soon as we make a decision on each one, I have quotes from $3,500 a month to $7,000 a month. So I went ahead and put in there for $7,000 until we get an idea of which one we're going to choose. And that'll go down before we implement, because the most expensive ones, I don't see any reason why we need those, because they're the same product being provided by different companies. So that will go down. As you can tell, I broke out the telephones from the fiber and interface. So those are two different entities, so we're not tied to Conterra if they don't have a phone system that we particularly want. So that first $7,000 a month is internet and phone. I'm sorry. That $57,000 is the amount for the fiber optic cabling and internet service for the county. Then the $84,000 is the telephone system if we go with the most expensive one. And I rounded it up because there are always going to be some incidentals when you implement. But that, like I said, that'll change before we finalize the budget. Guys, you got any questions before I move on? On the phone systems, I have one more company that may get a presentation before we choose, but they're one of the most expensive ones on a quote, so I'm not sure that we're going to visit with them. Next page is non-departmental contracts, maintenance type of stuff. As you can see, there's a couple increases. The $70,000, the second entity on copier fees. Looking at copier fees right now, we're at $46,000, and that's what was set over there. I think we put about $60,000 in there. We're probably going to run over by about $2,000, so I'm putting in for $70,000 for next year. So that's an increase. We continue to use more copies. That's a per-click cost for the county. The next entity is website hosting. We went to the TAC, so that is an annual fee of $1,550, which previously we were down about $500-600 for that website hosting. Kemp Industries, which is UPS and Dispatch, that's an annual maintenance on that device. That's the one up in Dispatch that keeps them up and going during power failures. The next one is the Rapid Scan, which is the device in the front of the courthouse that scans for metal objects and knives and guns and all that such. So those are pretty much the same. Some of them I've got new quotes that increased just a little bit, but for the most part they didn't. Next page is equipment, non-departmental. Switches, servers were staying the same. UPS batteries were staying the same. Copiers, I decreased that by $25,000 because some of them were replaced this past year.
We're not buying copiers, we lease them, don't we?
No, we're buying them.
Buying them.
You need to talk with your auditor to see about leasing. That's a whole can of worms.
All right. I don't want to open that, I just wanted to know if we were buying or leasing.
I ran into that brick wall when I brought it up, the suggestion before, so I'll leave that up to you all to decide. Okay, the next page is the big one, our software. Actually, it's actually gone down a little bit from last year. Close, it increased a little bit. All of Tyler Technologies, based on invoices from this current year and the previous year, have increased somewhere about 5%. So I add 5% again for this year to increase theirs. And that's growing on an annual basis. They don't miss a chance to increase their stuff. And right now, we don't have any ongoing projects other than the current systems being, everything is in place. and nothing's being phased in or implemented. So it's a little bit cleaner than it has been in the past. And it's pretty much the same things we've had in previous years. That's all I have in 409. Unless you've got any questions, I'll answer them before I go on to the 503.
Do y'all have any questions on the non-departmental budget there? If not, we'll move on to data processing. Yes, sir.
I do have a question. I was under the impression that seemed as Doc Sue's trying to fade it out.
She has not got a replacement product as yet, so it's still in place.
Okay.
Now, if she comes up with something before we pay for it again, we can turn the money over to that direction, but we'll have to address that when a new product comes along.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm speaking out of turn if she's here.
Yeah.
Evidently not, so. Okay. 503. So I just indicated the ones that are increasing. The first one is the travel allowance. All the IT people get a $200 a month stipend for doing mileage, is running between buildings and things like that. And we increased staff, so I wanted to make sure that everybody in the department had that. That's the 4271 account.
So that's not increasing the amount, it's just adding a person.
Because of staff increase, that is right. Most of the increases in this department is because of staff increases. In the 503, I should say. Next one's office supplies, a slight increase in that, I think, from maybe 1,500 up. But, and the next one is cell phone allowance. I want all of our staff to have $40 a month, because whenever we're in the wiring closets across the county, we're using our cell phones and researching on the internet, so we're chewing up data and time. So it'd be very appropriate for us to all have $40 a month on that, even though it's not going to touch what we use for them. So that's an increase. So previously, I think Robert and I were the only ones that had $40 a month, and Dustin had 20. With the two additional ones that'll increase that to $4,800 a month, then, or $4,800 a year, please. Okay, the next one being 4429, which is travel. Any of our classes we go to, they're $5,000 minimum to go to the class and to the housing or your hotel and meals and all that kind of stuff. So, and that's something with additional staff here where we're really going to push, because it will make it easier for people to get away to do that sort of thing with additional staff. Okay, 503 equipment, additional. That's kind of random things. If we have to buy a laptop or a computer for one of the members of the IT department, we'll get them out of there. Also, a lot of times on the fly, we'll have to, when we're hooking up somebody's computer, we may have to get a cable. We may run to Walmart and do that. So a lot of times I just pull it out of equipment there. And purchasing new cables and things like that, adapters. Okay, that's all I have at this time.
Do you guys have any questions about IT departments? Budget request here. Thank you for gathering all those details for us, Charlie.
I'll share with you that Becky has put together a list of equipment requests for next year. If I see that I have money available, I'm going to try to buy forward on a lot of those. So if that is okay with the court.
Sure. You're talking about the computers that
is needed for next year due to Windows 11 push.
Okay.
That are, so
Yep.
I'll do whatever I can in this year money to without, talking with Becky, make sure we're not shorting something that she may need money for. So, but there should be some available in that, because if we don't decide on a phone system until next year, there's some that I kind of allocated for that or set aside.
very good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
Appreciate it. up is juvenile. I see Kelly just stepped out to take a phone call. You're up, Kelly, if you're ready.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Right. Most of our line items did not change much from last fiscal year. I'm sure the one that stood out to y'all was the $1.5 million in requests for repairs and maintenance to the facility. And we are asking, as far as equipment's concerned, we do need a storage unit, an exterior storage unit of some sort, because we have nowhere outside to store any of our any lawn equipment, or we have a few generators that we bought last year during the power outage. And there are certain things that we can't keep inside the facility per state standards, to anywhere where the kids can get, or the kids are around things. So we could really use a storage building of some sort.
Do you have room there? I hadn't really looked at.
There is a storage building that's currently there, that's been there, I think, probably since 1812, that is falling apart completely. So we could tear that down and
Just rebuild right there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Does it, you know, the stuff you're needing to store with something like one of the big rail Connex type deals, is there anything that would be temperature sensitive? I mean, you're talking about this,
No, sir. No, there's not. There are temperature-sensitive things like hazardous materials or things that we have to keep indoors in a secure area, which we need room for. But if we can get some of the things that we could put outside into a storage building, then we would have room for those hazardous materials. It's chemicals and things that we would clean with and have that inside. So,
but when you go talking about purchasing a pre-built storage or trying to build one, the most bang for your buck is one of those Connex. You're looking at $3,000 or $4,000 top.
okay, yeah.
You know, so I mean, if that's something that would fit in,
Absolutely. We just need, I'm fine with anything that we can house some things
I bought
outside.
one to put it in the house, and you know,
Yes, sir.
I have to put stuff in it to work that perfect.
Yes, sir. And then our A-Pod and B and C pod rec yards, the B and C pod rec yard that's currently in use with the kids using it is in horrible shape. There's an old basketball goal out there that's pretty much falling apart. The lawn itself, it's dirt. It's, there's a few sprigs of grass. There's nowhere to sit out there. And we don't need anything vast or extensive, but there's really nothing out there for the kids at all to do while they're outside. And no, like I said, no lawn furniture of any kind, or it was falling apart and we've disposed of it. On the fencing in both rec yards, there are some parts of the fencing, the secure fencing, that actually need mended. We got a bid, I think, from Beavers last year, just for being the rec yard that's currently in use, and it was $10,000, I think, which seemed a little high. What I would like to do, and if we were going to spend that kind of money, we currently have the razor wire at the top of the rec yard fences, but there has been in the past, not since I've been there, but there's been some kids, I think 2 kids in the past 8 or 10 years that have been able to escape over that wire, and I had an idea of putting an inverted fence panel on the top of the existing fence panels to keep that from happening. And so I would like to look at something different in both rec yards as far as amending the current fencing there and then putting something in there that's more secure at the top for security purposes. And let's see, the A-Pod piping system supplies. So our A-Pod unit that we have been renovating for the past 4 months. Hopefully we'll be able to open that in October. The piping system that we ordered for B and C pods last year, we're gonna have to add some additional components to that system to add to A-Pod for those 12 cells that are in A-Pod. So I think that'll be around, I don't think it'll be any more than $3,000, if that, for those components. And then, of course, we have our leased vehicles. We did get a new vehicle this fiscal year, the Chevy Tahoe, which we're very appreciative of. It's been very nice to have that room to carry the kids, and so that's our cost for the year for the leasing, was the $38,000. And then, do y'all have any questions about the equipment or the leased vehicles?
I was gonna ask you a question on the, I guess it's the 570, the 1.5 million.
Yes, sir.
Repairs and maintenance. None of that's included that you've got further back in, like the last page where you needed.
No, sir, I did not put,
Is that strictly for, building repair?
it is, and I was gonna get to that last. I've
Oh,
got
okay.
some
Is that-
specs on that.
Have you got bids on it, or is it just, we're figuring that's what it?
Well, we are currently using for A-Pod renovations, so the county appropriated $200,000 this current year for building renovations, and we have been able to do currently about $300,000 worth of work, get that done. The A-Pod renovations, I don't know if all of you are aware of, A-Pod was the original facility pod when in the original building. So they had to build the original building, which is the probation department, and one housing unit for the facility, 12 cells in there. It was built in 1985, and then in 1998, when the county built the additional facility, the add-on, for whatever reason, and I'm not sure what it was, they shuttered the A-Pod hall, and so, but that's 12 cells that are extremely valuable. Right now, a cell, a bed for a juvenile across the state is going for up to $450 a day. They're so scarce, the beds for the juveniles, and so that will add another 12 beds to our facility, which would make us a 38-bed facility. And the A-Pod renovations are almost done. So we have an additional cost on we had to include that in the security monitoring system the surveillance system that we currently have in the facility now. We had to tie A-Pod into that. We did not have a big enough server, and I'm not very savvy on, technology, but we had to upgrade to, I think, 128 terabyte, I don't know if that sounds right, server, which was about $30,000, I believe. And then, of course, to tie in all the lines and all that they have to do to add A-Pod to that surveillance system, we put a down payment on that, or we paid the initial cost on that, which was about $39,000. So the only thing we have left to completely finish A-Pod and it be ready to open is that I think it's an additional $60,000 left to pay on that surveillance security system.
When you open A-Pod, do you have the enough workers to cover? Will you need to hire more people?
We have enough right now. We have enough slots already in the budget, what you're seeing here.
Just got to get them filled.
We do, and so on any given day, I may be fully staffed today, and in a week and a half, I could be, short-staffed. It's just those are hard positions to keep filled. But we are currently in the process of we're actively looking for more staff members in order to accommodate A-Pod for an October 1st opening. We've talked to the juvenile board about what we would actually earmark A-Pod for. We could use all of our 38 beds for pre-adjudication short-term kids, our own kids, and then those that we contract with across the state. And if I have the staff, and if I can keep the staff, because we have to have a certain ratio, JSO to juvenile ratio, according to the state. But if I could keep fully staffed, I could keep every one of those beds full. I mean, we probably turn down 15 calls a week. 10 to 15 calls a week from other counties, and they're paying. They'll pay anything to get a bed in the state. They're just that scarce. So, but that one the variable that concerns me is keeping it fully staffed, because we can do all we can do, and if you don't have the people to staff it. Currently, at this time, we are today fully staffed in the facility. And again, we're actively looking right now and trying to get people in to interview for APOD. If we use APOD to reopen our long-term program, which is what we had talked to the juvenile board about doing, you do still have to have, it's one JSO for every 15 kids during program hours, and then one JSO for every 18 kids during non-program hours. But if you have male and female residents, you have to have a male and female JSO. But I don't think, because what we will do is we will appropriate a juvenile probation officer will have to be with those long-term kids. And so that would be our, if it's a female probation officer, that would suffice for the ratio accommodation for, and then if we would just have to put another male, one more male down there. But the revenue that we could generate, currently we are charging $125 a day for short-term pre-adjudication contract residents and $150 a day for post-adjudication. But we had shuttered our post-adjudication program last year and will reopen in October. We are looking at upping or increasing the per day amount for long-term to $225, which I think is still very low, and $175 a day for pre-adjudication short-term. I got a contract from Bell County the other day, seeing if we wanted to contract with them. They're charging $380 a day for pre-adjudication short-term. We have gotten from Cameron County, they're $300 a day. So I think we could increase even more than we are right now, but just with the increase that we talked to the juvenile board about,
I think we'd want to mirror what the rate across the state is.
right.
No reason for us to be the cheapest, is it?
No, and that's, that's something that y'all may want to consider, and I've
Is that a decision that the juvenile board makes, or does
Yes,
the
sir.
commissioner's court have to approve the rate?
I think the juvenile board is the one that makes
That's
the
right.
decision.
The rate.
Yes, sir, because that goes with our contract, and they have to approve our contract. So I think we are supposed to meet again to further discuss the per day amount. Even if we stayed at that low amount, currently, with what we're charging, if we filled half of our beds that are currently available, the revenue we are able to generate, if we're fully staffed, is $593,000 a year. If we, with the 12 additional beds in APOD and upping the short-term day amount to $175, long-term day amount to $225, that raises that total to $1,269,250. So we're talking about a 48% increase and that's just at that low end per day. And again, I have no doubt in my mind we could keep the beds full all year, as long as we can keep staff
The
there.
numbers you give, you said we just kept them half full? Or was that?
Well, because we have to keep some of our beds for the Harrison County kids. Yes, sir. But that's a low end. It is. And we're not, like I said, right now we wouldn't have to add any slot positions, which, is the lion's share of any budget. And we've had a lot of turnover, so we've had some cost savings in the salaries, just this year, but that we're still in need as far as our ratio is concerned. We need all of those slots that we currently have.
What are your juvenile workers' salaries related for the East Texas area? I know you can't compare them to Dallas and Houston and the bigger cities, but I mean, where are you at is the...
Right. The juvenile supervision officers, which are the detention officers that supervise the kids in the facility, they range anywhere from $15.50 an hour to $20 an hour, or more. They are not required to have a degree, but I'm going to tell you guys, that is the hardest job I have, and I'm not trying to sell anything here. I'm telling you the truth. It is the most underpaid, underappreciated job I've ever seen in my life. These officers get I mean, the mental and emotional toil this takes on, and if you can imagine with being with the kids constantly, and these kids that have really horrible trauma and mental health issues, there's only so much discipline you can do with them, and rightfully so. But we've got kids that come in there that are 6'5", 220 pounds, and are combative. And I would just like to say that the two that stand out that have been there, Miss Cheryl Brown and Teresa Miner, they're two that have been there for, I know Cheryl's been there for 16, 17 years, and I think Miss Teresa's been there 13 years. Both of them have had to have reconstructive surgeries because of physical attacks they've had in the past. Shoulder surgery, knee surgery, and they're still there. They have a calling and a passion for this, and they act as mamas and daddies and counselors and cooks, and we don't have maintenance. We don't have a cleaning team, and yet there's very strict standards we have to adhere to by the state to keep for cleanliness and maintenance and facility upkeep. We don't have a maintenance department per se at the facility, so that falls on our staff. They clean, they cook, they take care of, they endure tongue lashings and physical assaults at times, have to break up fights, and can only do so much in doing that. I really don't know why anybody stays there. I do know because God's called them there. I mean, that is the only reason. But I tell them all the time, if I could pay them $1 million a year, it would be, they're worth it. I mean, they're definitely worth it. So, but as far as comparability, I think that it's, we're probably on the lower end, but you're talking about East Texas in a small county. So, but I'm always for raising their salaries. I'm a proponent for all of them. JPOs are the same way. They're dealing with a whole lot of things. Of course, they're degreed officers, and so their salaries are somewhat more. But I don't know if I even answered. Did I answer your question? Okay. I know this is a very large ask. I do. Problem is, and this is of no fault of any of you or really anybody for that matter, there's been very little upkeep and maintenance done at that facility over the past couple of decades. But the onus falls on the director of the facility to report to the court if they need additional monies for upkeep and renovation and maintenance, and that I don't think that's happened in the past. But everything that I've encountered and seen in the past year and a half there, I would be remiss for not bringing it to your attention. There is, again, this is a 24-hour facility. Kids live there, and it's in pretty bad shape.
When you look at it though, yes, 1.5 million, but this might be one of the first times in my 10 years of sitting here that you've actually seen an opportunity where if you spend a little money over time,
right.
You're not only bettering your facilities, but you're actually, once you get past about the second year, you're going to actually be making money. So, I mean, it's not a bad investment when you look at long-term investment
Right.
under the current conditions of where we're at as a society and a country.
Right. And I took that into consideration. I want to be as transparent and forward as possible, honest as I can be with you guys. I would love to say, your rate of return is I could pay this back in a year and a half, because from the numbers I just gave you, you can. It's if we keep these beds full. The one thing I can't guarantee is staff,
Well,
appropriate
that's your
staff.
best case scenario.
That's right.
You know
That's
what I
right.
mean? So
That's right.
Even if it takes you 4 years or 5 years to get your money back, that's still a pretty good,
Right.
still a good investment.
It is. I believe it is. I think it's a good fiscal investment. And I think, at the risk of sounding like a bleeding heart, which there's no kid out there or staff member that would call me a bleeding heart or a soft heart for that matter most days. But these kids are, if we don't invest in this, not just the structure and the facility, we're doing, with the long-term program, we're doing a whole lot of new things. We do have some part-time counseling out there right now. I was able to get a regional grant from the state to pay for that. We're waiting on the actual monies to come from the state to finish out the year. Then I am going to apply for for grants for counseling, treatment, and programming through the state. There are sometimes grants available for renovations from the state of Texas through TJJD. The problem with that is the strings that are attached to it. Last year, I believed, we missed out. I was new and kind of in a tailspin, so we missed out on, I think they had $500,000 available throughout the state for renovations on local facilities, county facilities, but you had to agree to earmark a percentage of your beds to the state of Texas, and they get, I mean, if you're filled up with your local kids and they need a bed, you have to get your own kids out and they fill the bed. And there's strings attached to everything, but I would rather have local strings attached than from the state. But my hope is that I can get some of the grant money for the counseling, the programming, and treatment, which we need for the long-term program, which would supplant what we would either use out of Grant A or county funds that are needed for counseling, which would free up some of the county and Grant A that we could use for these renovations, hopefully. I have a letter nearly ready to send to ETCOG begging for some money. I just, I don't mind asking for anything, and if you don't ask, you're never going to get it. But I have learned in the past through the adult department that you have to be careful what kind of grants you accept because, again, there are strings attached and you're under the auspice and authority of a large state agency when it comes to rendering services and counseling, and they can tell you what you can and can't do, and it's not always the best thing for your clients or kids. So it's a lot of moving parts. But I do think it's a wonderful investment. Fiscally, I think you will see a return eventually. Of course, we're not a for-profit. We're never going to actually see a revenue. But as far as paying an investment back, I do think that long-term you'll see the return on this. And these kids are kids that are from our community. They live in our community. Their parents are here. Many of the kids that we supervise at the facility, I have their parents and grandparents on adult probation. There's a 75 to 80% recidivism rate in the juvenile system. That is, I don't know how that even happens. Somebody's doing something wrong. But Harrison County can do something right. I know what works. There's evidence-based practice. It's easy with kids. The problem with these kids, they don't know how to do life. They don't know how to do the basic skills from soft skills and hygiene. They don't know how to brush their teeth. They don't know how to, some of the saddest things I've ever seen in my life. The gang problem here, if y'all don't know, it is out of control. I don't know how we can't get this back under control, but there's things that we can offer within the facility, pretty easy, simple things. Education classes, life skills classes, job readiness. That's the differential between a successful completion out of the criminal justice system and unsuccessful is employability in education. So I have plans to partner with TSTC in the future, trying to get these kids some vocational skills. Panola has agreed to come in and do some GED prep. And if we can get them ready for life and honestly, they don't know what it feels or means to be loved by anyone. That's been skewed with abuse and trauma in the past, and they don't trust anybody. And so you just keep showing up every day. It's amazing with these kids how they respond. And so we see what works, and it's slowly but surely working. I expect to see, if we're doing things the right way at the facility and with our programming and counseling and treatment with the kids, in the next 2 to 3 years, we will see a change in the recidivism rate in Harrison County, or we're not doing something right. We'll have to change the way we do things. But I believe with all my heart we're going to see crime in the juvenile population diminish if we can get it's the structure of the place definitely needs to be worked on, but we've got to get them some help in there, and we are holding them accountable. They do get disciplined. It's not fun out there, I can promise. They're still going behind a locked door every night and having to ask to use the restroom and eat when they're told, at meal times. But I do believe that this is an investment for the whole community. I mean, you're going to see a return on. We should see it if I'm doing my job right. And if I'm not, then y'all should hold me accountable. So.
A couple of things I'd like to ask you. Would you ask the juvenile board to consider increasing the day rates to whatever the market will bear?
Yes, sir, I sure will.
And then would you plug that back into your, I guess you got a spreadsheet where you're kind of figuring
Yes, sir.
your revenue, and maybe send that to us as well?
I sure will. Would y'all like to hear a list of what we have done as far as renovations at the place thus far? Would y'all, you had other questions, I'm sorry.
Nope, those are my two questions. The rates and the, kind of a pro forma spreadsheet.
Yes, sir, I sure will. The renovations that we have had done thus far, in APOD, all of the electrical fixtures have been replaced. And I don't know how many of you guys saw that APOD before the renovation started, but it was something else.
And how many beds is that opening up? that you
12.
didn't have? 12
Ye-
additional?
Yes, sir. We added recessed lighting fixtures in cells, the shower and bathroom remodels, plumbing repairs that included scoping lines prior to repair. There was some horrible plumbing issues out there. I mean, I think Mr. Timmons saw it. We had a hole in the floor with water coming out of there when he came in. New cabinets, countertops, and sinks in the utility room, walls, doors, and hard ceiling repaint throughout the APOD and APOD gym. All new ceiling tiles, floors stripped, sanded, sealed throughout pod and gym, windows cut in glass added to 3 pod cells. There were 3 cells that did not have windows, and by state standards, they have to have natural light in their cells, so we had to cut windows in 3 cells and added glass to those. Glass replacement in all cell door windows, new cabinets, countertops, and control room, and then the first phase of the security monitoring install. Another thing, which is for me, I thank the Lord for this more than anything, is the generator. We have a new generator. It was a $77,000 generator, but it somehow fit inside this budget, which we didn't budget for it, and I don't know how that happened. Did you pay for that? Out of your pocket? I don't know. The Lord provides, is all I know. But, you know, we were out during the power outage last year. We were out there 5 days without power. It got up to 88 degrees inside the place with the kids there, and we ended up getting them out of there, getting to the jail annex. But that was, I said, Lord, please don't ever let this happen again, because I was afraid some people were going to die.
So what you got now runs the whole facility?
The whole
when it goes back?
shebang, and it worked the other day. The electricity went out, counted, it was 18 seconds, and there it came on. I mean, I just wondered, I did cry, actually. That was, if nothing else, that was that was the biggest blessing I could ever ask for. So, repair and reconstruction of exterior drainage systems, and there was the main gas line to the facility. I did not know this, obviously. I don't know if anybody was aware of it, but it's for all these years, it's been run under the facility, which, from what I hear, is not safe. But when that got brought to our attention, CenterPoint came out and rerouted it around the building, so now we're not going to blow up. So that's another blessing. And so those are the things that have happened that we've gotten done thus far. It's been, I mean, again, it's been a lot of repairs and renovations. Sloan Construction is who did the work. I mean, they have been so accommodating and worked with us because they've had to start and stop. I was kind of afraid I wasn't going to have the money because we didn't have the money in the budget for this, the $200,000. And so they were very accommodating and holding off until we could make sure that we had it. They were the ones who really got this generator in there for us. And Brad is a jewel. He's helped us immensely as well. So this is a lot I think we got a big bang for our buck, for sure. Hopefully
Are they finished?
Yes, sir. They were sealing the floors today for the first time, putting on the top coat, the gloss on. And I would love for anybody to come out there and see it. Again, if you had seen it from the before and after, it's amazing, but it's still amazing regardless. The only thing that we need is this last phase of this surveillance system to be put in, and it's $50,000-$60,000. But I'm hoping we can move some money if we have it. I don't know. I have to look at that, or we may have to wait till after October to finish that. So,
Kelly, is there an incentive of maybe, I don't know how it's set up, those kids that are doing well and it's improving, are they kept separate, from, separately housed? Are they all?
Right now, everyone is together, and that is something, it's hard to paint the picture of the facility until you come out and see it. We currently have essentially two hallways, B and C pod. When we were operating the post-adjudication program, per standards, you can't have pre and post-adjudication kids together, so we had them on separate hallways. Now, the problem with that is that you then had to combine male and female residents on each hallway, and the facilities at that time, the doors didn't close all the way, the locks didn't, and thank y'all again, by the way, for the appropriating the money to rekey the whole place. We got the locks fixed. That was such a blessing. But it's hard to find. I would love to do, and I know exactly what you're saying, to have, the lower risk with the not, and we try to do that. Sometimes we just we use the two pods as efficiently as we can. If we've got some dangerous, violent kids in there, we will seclude them on one of the pods and just fill up the other pod completely with all the other kids. We are moving kids around constantly. But this additional room in a pod, because it is completely removed from, it's down in the original facility. So that may be, if we're not completely full with our long-term kids, we had thought about that, having our lower risk, less violent kids move down there with long-term kids.
One of the reasons I asked that, and I heard you say that you could easily keep all 38 beds filled if we can keep the personnel.
Yes, sir.
And I really don't, I believe it's kind of hard to get the personnel to come in. Then I was wondering if we was even big enough. If you can do 38 beds, could you do 48 beds?
If you expanded the structure,
Right.
You could do we could fill up 500 beds here.
I was just at a conference and I talked to one of the judges there and they was asking me if we had room at our facility and I got the answer here today. But they was looking to contract with somebody.
They do.
So and I was just something to think about.
The sky's the limit as far as this field is concerned. The need is there. And I'll be honest with y'all, just to look at this in a fiscally responsible way, I did look at what it would look like, and I'm in no way suggesting that we should shutter the facility or the department. But I looked at, is it a huge cash cow on the county compared to what we would pay for sending our kids out and housing them in other facilities? I looked at, I did a statistical report for last year, and I believe that we had, let's see, I have the documentation here. We had between 1/1 of 23 and 12/31 of 23, we had our Harrison County kids. We spent 2,952 days in our facility collectively for all the Harrison County kids we had. An average per diem rate I put in as $250 a day if we were to send them out of county, and the total cost for us to house that many kids, which is a really low number actually, was $738,000. That's not including transporting kids. You still have to maintain a probation department, and the problem lies with if you try to find a bed and there's not one, that's a problem. We encounter it all the time. I mean, I get phone calls during the night from juvenile directors, pleading, desperation, pleading for us to take their kids, because if there's no beds, there's no beds, and if you don't have a facility in your county, then you're at the mercy of somebody that does, and there's just no one that has beds available. And so we are in a good position here to build some revenue, generate some revenue with these additional beds, or 200 additional beds we could. I also have some control issues. I want to know that these kids, I know that they're taken care of in my facility, and I know that they're being watched after and they're being taken care of. We're not spoiling them by any means. But there is very little oversight by the state in these facilities, and that scares me to death as to what is happening in other facilities. And if you've read anything about the TJJD, they've been under the microscope and they've been under scrutiny for years because of abuse and neglect in facilities, and it's true. I know if it's happening in our facility, well, it's not happening now. But if we catch it, better guarantee I'm going to do something about it. We're going to constantly do everything we can to, our goal is to become the model, Texas model, juvenile model for pre and post adjudication. Is that audacious? Yes, it is. But if I was working for any less or toward any less, I would be doing this county a disservice and these kids a disservice. So I know if they're here, that they're taken care of, and we're doing something, if nothing else, we're showing them that there are adults they can trust, that they are valuable and they are worthy. Excuse me. So we just have to keep working toward doing better, and when we know better, we do better, and that's what we're doing here. And I appreciate everything y'all have done. The staff appreciate y'all, immensely, and the kids. And Judge Black has I would not have that job for anything in the world. That juvenile court judge, it's a difficult, he seems to navigate it well. But there's just so many issues with these kids, and we've got to address them, the mental health issues and trauma being one. And if we're addressing those issues, we're going to see a decrease in crime in this population. Now, some kids are just bad. I was a bad kid. Really didn't have any excuse to not be, to be bad, but I was, and thank the Lord he got me out of that, and my mama. But these kids, a lot of these kids don't have parents. They're orphans for all intents and purposes. So we have kids running away from home, coming to our facility, knocking on our door, if that tells you anything. So there's a myriad of possibilities, and it's limitless as far as what we can do there. I don't expect anything to happen overnight or in a year. It's going to be a long haul. I can retire in June, but as long as God keeps me here and the judges keep me here, I'll be here. But we want to keep it better or make it better than we found it, leave it better than we found it. So thank you all for doing that. And I appreciate everything y'all have done and everything you're willing to help us with. So there's been a lot of progress made.
We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, I have a wonderful staff. Shay Ransom, y'all met Shay. She couldn't be here today. Her grandmother passed away. But she's a 1 in a million. I couldn't have done it without her, and the whole staff. So they've been wonderful. God's blessed us. And this is all, just let me say, the credit, every piece of credit and glory is given to him. God has done every single thing that's been done there, and he continues to reveal himself in just miraculous ways. And it's been really neat to be a part of it and watch it. And so.
Thank you. You guys have any questions for Ms. Kirkland? I'm sure we probably will, so.
Sure,
we'll stay in
absolutely,
touch.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
very
Thank
much.
y'all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank y'all.
I did not make a note on who's next. I think Ms. King, you probably were here and ready to go, and so come on.
Good evening, how are y'all?
We're good. Thank you.
I'm gonna be sorely disappointed because I'm not gonna be up here that long. Basically, I came to talk about the budget for my software collection package. I just came to talk to y'all to talk to y'all about make sure that we can put this money aside so when April comes or springtime comes, we will have that money available for whatever software collection that we might go with. Me and the appraisal district have been demoing different software collections, so we are on the roll on the ball of getting somebody in the spring of 2025. So I just wanted to make sure that we can get this set aside so it'll be available, that when we do go out for RFPs, that we'll have this money set aside. And that's basically why I was coming today. You have any questions? I'm sorry, my voice, I hadn't been feeling good.
That is all right. I was just pulling up your request here.
So your equipment maintenance is your software?
The software, 250,000.
Yeah,
Yes.
250. Yeah.
And if you want a good software, that's what you're looking at.
And the last time we upgraded software was,
It's been 20 years. We started out with ARS, and then they was bought out by Southwest Data 5 years later. So it's been 20 years, and they haven't done any upgrades, nothing to make us better.
For y'all, is that the shape that you said the appraisal district?
Appraisal district is in also. Mhm.
Will y'all go to the same type or?
We will
same-
go to the same software, yes, yeah. Because right now, we're looking to change collections first, and then once collections, then the appraisal district will change the appraisal side. So we want to do collections first.
Or you still go collect your county side?
Yes, yeah. But we're both trying to team together so we can find the best, yes,
I don't think you really requested anything else. The other big change you had was, out of your control, the appraisal district cost.
Yeah, and that's due to the software collection also, and then hiring new appraisers.
Sure.
But you know, something that's been pretty, you've read a lot about is a lot of the counties are denying these big appraisal district increases. I don't know if they're the same reason that ours is, whether it's software or what, but there's been a lot of counties that have disapproved their big increases in their budgets.
I really don't think we have no choice but to,
I think we've been told for the last 6, 8 months that we could expect the software increase.
yeah. Because just looking at the future, I don't see Southwest Data making any changes, and they're losing clients. So
They gonna shut her down.
yeah.
They probably ought to run the gamut of what they.
Very good. We will do our best.
Okay. I appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next up, how about our extension office? Y'all ready?
Good afternoon. We're just basically here to tell y'all thank you so much for the support. As you see, we are dressed very casually. We just wrapped up our second summer camp, and today was Explore 4-H. So we had boys and girls sewing. We had a session on food and nutrition, ag ID, horticulture ID, and photography. Last week it was archery. Next week it'll be robotics. And so basically, in terms of the budget, we are just requesting level funding.
Level funding, that's easy enough, and I can tell you, we're happy to see you guys dressed like you are, and we know what you've been doing, so thank y'all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, certainly, we want to see your programs increase, and we're working on some of that kind of behind the scenes, and if we can help, we sure want to, so thank y'all for what you're doing.
Okay.
That, you make it easy enough on us, level funding, not much for us to do that.
Yes, and thank y'all so much. And we having our 4-H Awards banquet on Tuesday, August 12th. Is that right?
Thanks, sir.
12 o'clock, 6 o'clock. We hope all y'all can join us. We think the meeting 13th. Okay, I know it's a Tuesday, August 13th, 6 o'clock. Meeting room will be packed. I'm anticipating we're gonna be busting at the seams.
Good.
It's gonna be awesome.
Good.
First banquet in a long time, huh, man?
And we got some good sponsorships and we have some good awards that the kids are getting.
Yes,
Fantastic.
exciting time. So thank you all for your support.
Thank y'all very much. You guys have any questions for them?
I just want to say, we always appreciate what you folks do. I get no complaints. All I get is people that are glad that y'all are out there, and my farm folks absolutely love y'all's office.
Yeah,
Good bunch of people. We appreciate y'all.
thank you.
And this morning was discussion about finishing out the building out the ag farm. We're hoping to get that in this budget year, get it.
That'll be great.
Awesome. I know we rerouted the water line, so we're one step closer.
I just want to kind of echo what Mr. Hatfield was saying. In case you think he's just using some words this time, we appreciate all three of you and your staff and what you have done just recently here in Harrison County. And we just hope that it'll only improve.
You will, and I just have
Not
to
just on
echo.
your part, but on our part.
Yeah, but I just have to echo. We are so thankful for Jennifer, because Jennifer, you started last May, right? And our enrollment was at 66, and today we're with
179.
we're at 179. And if it hadn't been for this young lady, there's no way Matt and I we could have accomplished it, and all the kids. And then today, to even have young males, you know, sewing, they came back and they say, hey, can we finish our square, because we're doing a quilt for Crystal Valley. That really meant something to me, because I haven't sewn in a long time, but it was good, and we had a lot of good volunteers.
Right. And you all are so easy to talk to every time I come out, you know. I have to say something to each and every one of you, but again, echoing what Mr. Hatfield is saying, thank you so much, Matt. We appreciate you all so much.
Thank y'all.
You guys I know you heard what Ms. Kirkland had to say, and I have no idea if 4-H or any of that can be involved in any way, but there's a whole bunch of young men and ladies next door at Willoughby that could sure use some help. If there are programs out there, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to put that on you, but if you might go back and look and just see if there's something that we
I
can
would
do to
just
keep
say-
them engaged somehow. Animals tend to make a difference in people's
True.
lives, and so that'd be great.
True, and we were on that pathway right before Jennifer started, and the lady we met with, she had retired shortly after. So we are open. Just tell them to send them over. Just send them over. We're open.
All right.
Appreciate you.
Thank y'all very much.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Have a good one.
Who's next? Any volunteers? I don't have anybody else on my list. You guys may be happy to know that I think we're done for the day. It's 2:00. Is there? You have something else you want to talk about, Commissioner?
I'm through.
Motion.
You hurt my feelings.
I'm sorry about that.
If I had any involved.
Motion by Commissioner Hatfield, second by Commissioner Timmons to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, our motion passes. It's 2:00. We're adjourned. Thank you all.